This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Guten Morgen, guten Tag und guten Abend, everyone all the way from Munich, Germany, and welcome to INCRadio Central Europe. My name is Alessandra Martinez, and I will be one of your hosts for today. But of course, I am not alone because a few hours away from me is Henry. Hello.
Aloha, guten Tag, sa iyong lahat. Trying to mix it up. Again, I'm Henry Inocencio, coming to you all the way from Kaiserslautern, Germany. It is a hot day, and but I have the courage to get through this day. With a lot of water, we can get through anything. And as always, we always have a special guest with us, and let's all say hello to Chanel.
Hello everyone, I'm Chanel all the way in Frankfurt, and actually on Frankfurt side of the weather it is hot, but we've been having a very cool breeze, so it's really nice actually.
Yeah, when you get that cool breeze, the more courage you have to get through the day. And I'm saying the word courage a lot. It will be pretty much the theme of today's conversation. We'll be talking a lot about that, about why it's important to have courage. But first, let's check what time it is. Ali, what time is it?
Quick time check. It is now 8:03 p.m. here in Germany and 2:03 a.m. in the Philippines. So good morning, magandang araw po, magandang umaga to all our early birds who are tuning in right now. And of course, we want to greet all our viewers who are actively commenting right now. We have here Brother Mario Calvelo, Brother Joshua Rubik. Hello, Henry. Nice to see you in the comments. And so many more comments. And hello to everyone. Keep your comments going. Henry, what's up next?
So, as always, before we get into our topic about courage, we need to break the ice with a topic or a icebreaker game about courage. So, Kuya Tech, let's take a look at what we'll be playing today. Icebreaker of tonight, last letter listener. Okay. A little change up, but we'll there you go. That's the one. Would you rather bravery edition. So this is a game of this or that, or one choice or the other, and it'll focus around something that requires a little bit of courage. So let's take a look at the first this or that question. Oh, well, that's how to play. We'll start with the word. Next person gives a new word that starts with the last. Actually, is there the instructions for the courage game? This is actually the instructions for the game from last week. All right, so actually, I do have the game in front of me. It's basically it's a game of courage. So we'll give you two options, option A and option B, and they're really both hard options. But it's just a matter of choosing something that you might be more comfortable with. So Chanel, let me ask you, choice A or choice B? Would you rather go bungee jumping or swim with sharks?
Swim with sharks because growing up in Hawaii, I'm used to the ocean. Yeah, that's all I can say. How about you, Kuya?
I don't like either of the choices. So, I mean, if I had a choice, none of that is in my comfort zone. But I will say that, you know, if there was a cage around me, then I would swim with sharks. I wouldn't swim with sharks without anything to not surround me. What about you, Ali? What would you rather do? Bungee jumping or swim with sharks?
I would rather go bungee jumping because that has been on my bucket list for a long time. And may I say, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not an ocean person. I don't really like the water, the open water.
I don't know how I feel about that, Chanel. She doesn't like the ocean. We've been surrounded by the ocean for our whole life. But then again, that's my comfort zone, and we'll talk more about comfort zone as we go on. So next question, let's start off with you, Ali. Would you rather hold a snake or hold a tarantula?
Also easy. I would rather hold a snake because I am highly afraid of spiders. I cannot see them. I cannot be in the same room with them. So I would rather hold a snake. How about you, Chanel?
I'm with you. I definitely hold a snake. I don't like bugs.
Why do we have to hold anything? I mean, let's just observe them from afar. I think that I'm more comfortable with that. That's how I avoid answering that question because I don't want to hold any of them. All right, next question. Next question is Chanel. Would you rather travel alone or start a conversation with a stranger?
I've like done both, so I really don't have strong feelings about either, but I would say I guess travel alone sounds fun.
Okay, Ali, what would you rather do? Would you travel alone or start a conversation with a stranger? I don't know if you're the type to just talk to strangers when you're in line waiting for your lunch.
Maybe it's the German in me, but I don't talk to strangers unless I have to. And I did travel alone before, so of course the safe option for me is traveling alone. How about you, Kuya?
Uh, I do both, so I mean it's fine. Actually, no. You know what? I take that back. I traveled alone once. It wasn't. It's not that it's uncomfortable. It's just that I'd rather not travel alone. So it's easy for me to start a conversation with anyone. But let's get our chat involved in this. So, those in the chat, I want to ask you the first question. Would you rather hold a snake or hold a tarantula? So please put your answers in the chat, and we'll read your answer as to if you would hold a snake or a tarantula. And also, would you rather travel alone or would you rather start a conversation with a stranger? So those in chat, go ahead and answer those questions. Next one
Actually,
is
Henry, I already have an answer from Rubik Joshua. He said snake. Hashtag Kaiserslautern, hashtag Schwäbisch, hashtag Stuttgart and Heidelberg. And another comment from Brother Mario Calvello about the second one. He said alone better po. So I think he would also travel alone. And here your wife, Sister Rachel, she said travel alone.
it is hard to travel with all of us. We're always just like not looking at the scenery, the scenic. We always say, "Where's my daughter? Where did she go?" So it's kind of hard. It's not that comfortable as we travel that way. Next question is for Chanel. Would you rather? This is a little change of subject. Would you rather admit that you're wrong or ask for help?
Ask for help.
I wonder, why would you rather ask for help? That's more comfortable to ask for help. Okay, I get it. I won't dig any deeper. What about you, Ali? Would you rather admit that you're wrong or ask for help?
To be honest, I think I would do both. Because of course, if I know I'm wrong, I don't want to hurt the person, and I hurt the person, I'm gonna say sorry. I admit that I'm wrong, but not always. So I would rather ask for help.
So the question isn't about what's the right thing to do. The question is about what you're more comfortable with. So there's not a wrong answer for that. I'll just put it that way. For me, I would admit that I'm right. No, that's not. See, I'm already wrong, so I'll admit that. That was a wrong statement of me. I'd rather ask for help. Anyway, next question, last one actually. Ali, would you rather sing in public or dance in public?
Oof, tough. This one's tough because I'm very shy, especially and here again the German comes out of me. I'm very quiet in person. I can't dance, so I think the safest option for me is to sing in public. How about you, Chanel?
Then we can sing together in public. I'd rather sing than dance, honestly.
Then let's all three of us sing together because I don't know how to dance at all. So it's a nice what triet duet. Three of us sing together. Let's all harmonize because we probably sound a lot better than we would look if we were dancing. That's too uncomfortable for me. So that is not one comfort zone I'm going to get out of. So Ali, anyway, what are we doing today? What are we talking about today?
So for tonight's topic, as already mentioned by Henry earlier, is about all courage. And we will be taking a leap of faith because we will be exploring the outside of our comfort zone. And we will be discussing the question, why growth begins with courage. So, comfort zone is a familiar space where things feel safe and predictable, but growth, the kind that can transform our lives or unlock our true potential, often are just outside that comfort zone or that familiar space. So that's what we will be talking about today, Henry. And of course,
So
I want to. Oh,
sorry,
go
I
ahead.
just put something in the chat. If for those who are with us today, if you wouldn't mind sharing a short story of a time you stepped out of your comfort zone, you showed courage, and you found success. So those in chat, go ahead and not too long of a story because we're actually going to read your stories. If you can write a short story of a time that you stepped out of your comfort zone, you had to show courage. It was uncomfortable for you, but you showed courage, and in the end, you found success. So please type it in chat, and we'll read out your story, and we'll see how it goes. So that's why we have Chanel with us today to be the first one to tell us her story of a time that she stepped out of her comfort zone. So Chanel, let's think back to any moment of your life, past, present, recently, um, when you had to step out of your comfort zone. You had something to accomplish, a purpose or a goal. It wasn't comfortable for you, but you went ahead and did it anyway. Share with us one of your short stories about that.
Yes, so I know the obvious answer would be me to talk about Germany, but I'm gonna go a different direction this time and talk about um, me going to Korea. And that was really the first time I stepped out of my comfort zone because I had an opportunity for me while I was a student in college. And I decided to go through with the opportunity. I had to go through an interview, I had to submit an essay. And although there was no guarantee that, I would, be accepted into the program, I got it. And that was so crazy to me because the program would allow me to study abroad in Korea for a couple of months. And that was the first time I've ever really done something for myself. That was like the biggest decision I've ever made at that age.
So maybe it was the Korean dramas. Maybe it was the Korean food. Maybe it was things that you've seen that just enticed you. But you know, you pursued your goal, and I know it wasn't comfortable, and I know it wasn't easy. Can you tell us why it was such a discomfort?
Absolutely, yeah. Even though I was very much interested in the food, the music, the fashion, the culture, it was very uncomfortable because I was doing this alone, all by myself. And with the program, I would be paired up with random students who also got selected. So I don't even know if I would get along with them or if I knew these people. So it's all an entirely different experience, all new things. And then you add on top of that, you're going to a new country where there's no familiarity. So I had a lot of anxiety. And I lived on an island, so going from one place to the other side of the world, um, that there was a lot going on.
Ali, explain to me in your German way how you would feel if that was you, if you were in that situation. Especially for our German audience. Um, how would you feel if you were going through what Chanel felt, that level of discomfort, having to talk to people in line, not knowing, just that level of discomfort? How would you feel?
Natürlich würde ich, also jetzt mal auf Deutsch, ja. Na klar, ich würde mich genauso fühlen wie Chanel in diesem Fall. Ich würde auch diese Angst verspüren oder dieses Unwohlsein, weil es ist einfach ein unbekanntes Land für mich. Ich kenne die Kultur nicht, ich kenne die Sprache nicht und alles ist neu. Klar, also da verstehe ich, dass es natürlich sehr unangenehm ist, sich in so einer Situation zu befinden. Vor allem, wenn man dann in diesem Land niemanden kennt, so wie jetzt in Chanels Situation. Es war nur ein College-Programm für sie und sie hat keinen gekannt in Korea und natürlich hat sie ja dort noch keine Freunde gehabt damals und die Leute, mit denen sie hingegangen wäre, wären natürlich auch ihr fremd. Also kann ich es verstehen, dass es sehr unangenehm sein kann. Und natürlich kennt man auch die Sprache nicht und ich weiß nicht, wie es ist in den Ländern wie Korea, ich weiß nur in Japan, da sprechen die meisten nicht so gut Englisch. Was that a problem for you, or was that one of the difficulties for you, Chanel, the language barrier, or was it easier for you?
Well, actually, the program they gave us like an intensive Korean culture language crash course for like 2 months before we went. So I think the language wasn't so bad. I think it was more of me gaining the courage to actually speak to native Korean speakers because they can like I was so conscious that like, oh my gosh, they're gonna hear my imperfections, they're gonna know I said it wrong or I have a weird accent. So that was what was difficult for me actually.
So I wanted to read a very nice comment of courage from a very familiar name. As an introvert, when I proposed to my wife in front of her friends and family, I knew she wanted to share this moment with them. I wonder who it was from, Chanel. So basically, a comment from someone by the name of Mark, who took some courage to propose in front of her wife. I know we're kind of going to a side tangent. We're talking about going to Korea, and we're talking about a new experience. But that comment really stuck out. So I wanted to pause on that comment of courage comes in all forms. It's not always about the bigger journey, but sometimes it's about the most romantic action that you can have that would your partner will remember for the rest of her life. And so, all right, let's go back to, and we'll talk more about that a little later. I know that kind of threw us a little curveball there. But anyway, so okay, so we're in Korea. Let's go back to Korea, and we're back in a moment of discomfort. Because for me, I'm not from here either. Chanel's not from here. And you know what? Let's ask everyone in our chat. If you are not from Central Europe, if you're not from Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, wherever in our district of Central Europe, if you are not from Central Europe, type courage in the chat. Want to see how many we have here who are not from Central Europe, who are not born and raised here. It will tell us a lot about ourselves and our comfort zone, because we had an opportunity and we all ended up going somewhere to get out of our comfort zone. So if you had to leave somewhere to come come here where you're at now, type the word courage. Or in German, I think the word is Mut. Is that correct? Yeah. So one of the things is, if I can say this correctly, hab Mut, den ersten Schritt zu machen. And right, isn't that the thing we all should do, to take that first step to find the courage to get out of your comfort zone? And so, Chanel, you told us some of your fears, some of the things that you were insecure about. People would start to see the faults and flaws of you as someone not from there. But you know what? Fast forward to today, you're here. You went through all that, you succeeded. You know, why though? Why were you able to be successful, to take that first step, and then you continue to take many more steps into your time there in Korea, and you came out successfully? No, what motivated you? What gave you courage?
What gave me a big amount of courage was knowing that as a member of the Church of Christ, I'll always find a home. Even though I don't know anybody there, I can trust that there are houses of worship there and brethren there who have the same faith and spirit that I do. And they will be ready to welcome me with open arms. So that was actually the first thing I did when I moved to South Korea. I tried my best to look for a house of worship. And a big shout out to Auntie Des Asenas, actually, because I asked her for help in connecting with the brethren there. And because of her, I was able to find my lifelong friends within the locale that I was at, which is, I believe it was the local of Yongsan, but now they're called the local of Seoul, if I'm not mistaken. But just having that connection spiritually and making friends there made everything less scary, made me feel less alone.
Ali, do you have any comments on that? Because you're from here, and you see a lot of us from all over the world come to Germany, and we are not comfortable yet, but you're here, and you're one of those who welcome us, and you try to help us out to get more comfortable. Oh, what do you have to say in response to what Chanel just said?
Ich sag's auf Deutsch, auch für unsere Zuschauer. Ja, also ich kann da nur zustimmen, dass in der Kirche Christi haben wir überall auf der Welt, egal wo es sein mag, immer ein Zuhause, weil wir haben überall einen Platz, wo wir unseren Herrn Gott dienen können. Und das ist in den Kirchen oder auch in den Gemeinden. Und natürlich gibt es da auch die Brüder und Schwestern in den verschiedenen Ländern, in verschiedenen Städten, egal wo es auch sein mag. Und in der Kirche Christi sind wir nicht, nennen wir uns ja auch Brüder und Schwester. Und das zeigt, dass wir eine Familie sind. Also in diesem Sinne hat Chanel klar neue Freunde gefunden und auch eine weitere Familie in einem anderen Land, weil wir eben die gleichen Werte und Normen haben in der Kirche Christi. Back to you, Henry.
So, yes. I'm gonna pretend I understood all of that, but no, I mean, she basically just said what Chanel said, and it was the brethren who made it a lot more comfortable. And basically, every time you get out of your comfort zone, the more you stay out of your comfort zone, your circle gets a little bigger, and you learn to trust the environment that you're in, because of, especially in Chanel's case, there were people there to help her with that situation. And so what greater comfort can you find when you have someone on the other end who's already taken the step before you to let you know that it's okay, it's not as bad as you think, because they went through the same thing you did before. And so I think that's what Chanel was basically saying, is that sometimes it does take a little help to for us to trust the environment that we're in. And so that's what happened to her. That's what's happening to us now. I wanted to read a comment from Mario Calvello of a very specific instance of a moment of courage. So he said, when my boss tried to stop me to attend the worship service, and I said to him, I'd rather resign than to stop my duty in our God. Hashtag Berlin, hashtag Meissen. So that is a very specific time of courage, wherein it's our livelihood, but it's something when your faith is in the right place. It's just some people have that ability to just be able to say that without hesitation, a moment of courage. So that when we talk about courage, it's not always about the long journey, the big journey, flying somewhere. Sometimes it's the things that are directly in front of you that can be very uncomfortable, very confrontational. And when you're able to summon that courage and you're able to overcome that challenge. And Brother Mario is a very active member of the church, and he continues to worship, and it's a very great example of a time that we should exhibit our courage as members of the Church of Christ. And so, to continue on with our topic, uh, the whole theme of this is all about growth. And so, when we find the courage, when we step out of our comfort zone, we take that first step. We take many more steps. Fast forward to now, Chanel. Looking back at all of this, now that you're here at your second country, you know, how do you feel having gone through all of this? And, do you feel a lot more like your comfort zone is even bigger than before?
Most definitely, I know that I've grown a lot, and I honestly did not give myself enough credit or thought to celebrate how much I've accomplished for myself at that age. So truly, I'm very proud of what I overcome, and most especially, I truly felt the love of God because He's answered all my prayers throughout the times I was in Korea. Because I did have times where I was crying in my dorm by myself because, I felt so lonely. But God was always quick to answer my prayers and bless me with people that brought me close to Him. He really gave me a good community. The brethren there, I cannot give them enough credit and love for how much they've helped me. They've helped me in my growth. And really, it's crazy to think that I've come full circle because Korea was actually just the start of preparing me for life here in Germany, which I never would have expected back then. Like, I honestly thought I was going to move to Korea, but instead, I moved all the way to Germany, and everything I learned in Korea, I am doing my best to apply here. It's definitely not easy, but because of that, I can apply it and make myself stronger, not only with the skills I've learned, but stronger in faith.
Well, yeah, that's a great experience to have. That when you have your first successful life out of home in a different country, you instantly gain courage from that experience. Do you have any comments on that, Ali, about how Chanel got courage because she succeeded for her first move and now she's here and she has courage coming here?
I just want to clap my hands for you, first of all, because it does take a lot of courage, of course, to do all of that. Now, switching back to German for our German viewers. Erstmal zum Zusammenfassen, was Chanel gesagt hat. Natürlich, wenn man in einem neuen Land oder in einem anderen Land oder ein unbekanntes Land hingeht oder egal was macht, was nicht in der Komfortzone eines selbst ist, kann es natürlich Angst oder auch Einsamkeit hervorrufen. Aber in unserer Kirche, in unserem Glauben, haben wir immer unseren Herrn Gott bei unserer Seite, an unserer Seite. Und für Chanel war es dann wie ein Runde, hat sich das halt alles abgerundet, als sie nach Deutschland kam, weil alles das, was sie in Korea gelernt hat, um dort zu leben, für die paar Monate, macht sie jetzt auch hier in Deutschland und das natürlich mit einem besseren Glauben oder einen strengeren Glauben an unseren Herrn Gott. Now, of course, many say that it takes courage to step into something unknown, and that's what you have done, Chanel. And but I also want to know, why do you think personal growth often involves some level of discomfort or risk? Because as you have mentioned before, of course, being in a unknown country or doing something new can be uncomfortable, or it can be scary too. So what is your thought on that?
Yes. So having courage or taking risks will always be uncomfortable because um, sometimes we need pain. We need pain in order to learn not to do certain things, or we need to go through difficult things to learn that I'm stronger than I thought. I can actually do hard things. So that's probably why it's uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable doesn't always have to be a bad thing. For members of the Church of Christ, we're always taught that we should have strong faith, right? And recently, we've been taught that we should test our faith. And if we don't pass the test that we have for ourselves, we should check ourselves and reflect and make sure that we figure out, how can I make my faith stronger? So that way, if you constantly keep testing your faith will only grow stronger from there. And that's the same concept with, growing out of your comfort zone, trying new things so that you can learn, like, hey, I can do this. Everybody is strong in their own way. It's just a matter of taking that first step to find out. And I know that Ali has been doing such a great job at translating and listening to my stories and even Kuya Henry's stories. But I want to ask Ali this time, as a local, because we need a local German perspective. What were some of your growth stages? What have you experienced any discomfort? When was the last time you had to take courage in trying something new?
Oh, I think there's some technical difficulties on her end, so I will take over just for a bit. Um, so I'll share some of my discomfort. Or before I show that, I wanted to read some comments from our those in chat from Edna Estabillo. Growth usually happens when we step out of our comfort zones. Hashtag Zurich South. From my wife, which Inocencio. When moving to a different place, you have our brethren who welcome us and are there to help. Hashtag Heidelberg, hashtag Kaiserslautern, Stuttgart, Schwäbisch Hall. From Joshua Rubik, all the different experiences you have, God made it so to help you in your future. Hashtag Kaiserslautern, hashtag Heidelberg, hashtag Stuttgart, Schwäbisch Hall. So there are moments of discomfort that come across us as we go through our, you know, we can say the word journey, and that we uh, are left with a choice. Rather, should we pursue that challenge, or should we just stay where we are, really? And what growth is there when you stay in your comfort zone? There's no growth without struggle. There's no progress without discomfort. And there's no success by staying in the same place. So we always have to find a way to summon that courage to be able to take that first step, because usually it's just the first step that is the hardest step to take. And as we take progressive steps, you start to realize maybe it wasn't so bad and maybe it was all just in my mind. Um, but there's still challenges anyway. There's still some times that you have to figure out what to do. But, and that's why we have prayer, to give us that extra courage, to give us that extra knowledge, give us that extra motivation and the ability to take on the challenge so that hopefully one step at a time, we can reach that level of success. I hope that makes sense. We'll continue our conversation, but I think it's time for our first station break. So please stay tuned with us at INC Radio Central Europe, and we'll be right back to our broadcast.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Tired of feeling your worst? Ready to take control of your health? Then tune in to Health Matters, the show that covers it all. Mondays, get glowing with Dr. Miriam Isla and the latest in skincare. Tuesdays, Dr. J.M. Cruz tackles your adult health questions. Wednesdays, it's family time with Dr. Owie Perez. Thursdays, Sister Min Tina and Sister Galore Pangan guide you to emotional well-being. And Fridays, discover the power of natural medicine with Dr. Erwin Torres and Sister Cheche Brinosa. Health Matters, Monday through Friday at 10:30 in the morning. Subscribe now and start living your healthiest life.
Ready to discover your new favorite INC original music? Introducing Playlist. Tune in every Monday to Friday from 9 to 10 p.m. for a musical journey like no other. Genres like R&B, acoustic, alternative, love songs, rock, pop, hip-hop, and rap. Each day brings you a different genre of INC original music tailored to match your mood. Looking for the perfect soundtrack to your day? We've got you covered. Join our hosts as they bring you the freshest hits, timeless classics, and everything in between. Catch Playlist live on INCRadio DZM 954 kHz, on the INCRadio YouTube channel, and on the INC Production Company's Facebook page. Set your reminders, spread the word, and don't miss a bit with Playlist. And remember, it's your music, your playlist. See you there!
It's 12 midnight. Tired of mindless scrolling? Tune in to Faith and Melody on INCRadio YouTube channel. Tuesdays to Fridays, 12 midnight Philippines. For thoughtful conversations that strengthen our faith and listen to inspiring INC original music. Become a part of the warm and loving community we call Ohana or family, because we are in this together in faith and melody.
Welcome back to INC Radio Central Europe Satellite Studio. It is currently 8:39 p.m. here in Germany, and in the first part of our conversation earlier, we talked about the all too familiar comfort zone and discussed why growth begins with courage. But as you know, our broadcast is not complete without learning new German words and phrases. So in our next segment, we will do just that with our Miss Malou in German is fun, Deutsch macht Spaß. Enjoy!
German is fun, Deutsch macht Spaß. Hello everyone, hallo, wie geht's euch? Welcome to German is fun. Willkommen zu Deutsch macht Spaß. I'm Sister Malou Francisco inviting you to another fun session of basic German. Today we'll learn to say in German the names of some fruits that are commonly found in tropical countries. For example, mangoes, avocados, jackfruit, tamarinds, and so on. So join me now for another list of German words and phrases and have fun learning German. First, I'll say the name of the fruit in English. Then, say the German equivalent, both in singular and plural forms. All you have to do is listen and repeat after me, and remember. German is fun. Deutsch macht Spaß. Let's begin. Let's have the names of some fruits from tropical countries and say them in German. We begin with avocados. Avocado. Auf Deutsch, singular, die Avocado. Die Avocado. Plural, die Avocados. Die Avocados. Banana. Auf Deutsch, singular, die Banane. Die Banane. Plural, die Bananen, die Bananen. Jackfruit. Auf Deutsch, Singular, die Jackfrucht. Die Jackfrucht. Plural, die Jackfrüchte. Die Jackfrüchte. Mango. Auf Deutsch, Singular, die Mango. Die Mango. Plural, die Mangos. Die Mangos. Papaya. Auf Deutsch, Singular, die Papaya. Die Papaya. Plural, die Papayas. Die Papayas. Our next fruit, it's a citrus fruit called pomelo. Auf Deutsch, die Pomelo. Die Pomelo. Plural, die Pomelos. Die Pomelos. Tamarind. Auf Deutsch, Singular, die Tamarinde. Die Tamarinde. Plural, die Tamarinden. Die Tamarinden. German is fun. Deutsch macht Spaß. This has been today's episode of German is fun. Deutsch macht Spaß. I'm Sister Malou Francisco saying thank you very much for joining us. Danke fürs Zuschauen. Till next time, bis zum nächsten Mal. Stay safe, bleib gesund. Tschüss. German is fun. Deutsch macht Spaß. German is fun. Deutsch macht Spaß.
And thanks again to Miss Malou for another lesson in German is fun. So usually we always ask Henry, what did you learn today, Henry? So let me try. Ich essen die Avocados und die Banana, aber kein die Mango. Did I say it correctly? I like to eat avocados, banana,
Wow.
but not mango. See,
Good
it's
job.
so easy to do German when you read it. But if you were to ask me, I'm not gonna cheat. I'm gonna tell you that I'm looking at words. But yes, so I saw some comments from Josh also saying that he eats papaya, I believe. My wife also, ich liebe es mango zu essen. That's what she said. And what else? There's another comment from Mario Covello. I think this is a nice comment that we should read, which he says, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the willingness to act in obedience to God's calling and purposes, relying on his strength and guidance. Hashtag Berlin, hashtag Meissen. If we ever, create a new segment, I would call that the comment of the day or comment of the night. That's one of those things where our topic for tonight really wanted to center about is having that courage to fulfill our duties. That is a courage that as members of the Church of Christ we will have every time we are called upon to do our duty. So thank you to all the comments that came in today. Continue to add comments, not just this broadcast, but in future broadcasts, always with hashtag your cluster, hashtag Berlin, hashtag Zurich, hashtag Heidelberg, just because that's where I am, hashtag Frankfurt. Wherever you're at, please feel free to always add comments with your hashtag so that we can always find out, which we will find out later, who the top 3 clusters are. But since we still have time, let's continue with our topic. And only because Mark had a nice story of, an uncomfortable time when he proposed to Chanel. I want to stay on that topic because what's the word? Kilig? Is that what we always say? Kilig? Or Schmetterling im Hauch? Your stomach? Is that right? Yeah. See, I know some of my German. I didn't read that one. That was something I memorized. Butterflies in your stomach. So, Chanel, tell me how uncomfortable that was to be proposed to in front of the family. And how do you think Mark felt to be doing that? How much courage did it take for Mark to propose like that?
It wasn't uncomfortable at all. I was actually very surprised, and like his comment said, he's an introvert, right? But in reality, introvert times 10. So having him do that in front of my friends and family, and planning with them long distance, it's I it's so impressive. Like I'm truly grateful because that just shows how much love he has for me, and I'm trying not to kill it too much. um, but yeah, for it took a lot of courage for him. That's what I can say, and um, I I can contest that it was a big move for him in terms of overcoming fears.
So, that takes a lot of courage, especially if you're an introvert and you're doing something like that in a very big public space with those who you cherish, those who are near and dear to you. Uh, if you were in the chat and, Chanel sharing her story, type Kilig in the chat to see, if just to kind of relate to that situation, when I had to ask my wife for permission. I've never, or not my wife for permission, my wife's parents for permission. Uh, that was to me one of the most uncomfortable moments I've ever experienced. Because it's not a question you ask every day. You're only gonna ask that question, really just once, and but it does take courage, and even for public speaking in general. Ali, let me ask you, the first time you ever had to do a INC radio broadcast. I don't know if you're a public speaker, right? How did that feel to make INC radio your comfort zone? And now, me and you were hosting it all the time now. Explain to me or share with all of us how comfortable you are now.
Okay, so this is actually funny because back then I remember I was told I will be co-hosting and I will be a guest, but no one was available because we had a district event. So I, I got pushed in the cold water and I had to host on the spot. So that was my very, very first time. And I did it with Sis Des, Auntie Des, and she helped me through it. And of course, the very first time was very, very scary for me because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to act. I was not trained to be a host. But now, many years later, I am one of the main hosts, and I'm doing this on a regular basis. So I stepped out of my comfort zone. I grew in that sense, and now I can talk freely. Of course, I have my ups and downs. It's easier to do it in front of the camera, but I'm not really a public speaking person, but I'm still working on that. So let's see how my future will look like, Henry.
So I think how do you say it? I'm gonna read it again. So ich bin schüchtern. Is that how you say it? I'm shy. I really am a shy person. I don't know if anyone knows me at that level. Growing up, I was always a quiet person. Even when you talk to me, I give you a one-word answer. Oh, so what did you do? What did you do today? School, play. Not too much words behind it. So being able to come into INC radio and to speak like this, it's great. It's an awesome feeling that I think when you become comfortable in yourself, you'll be almost comfortable everywhere you go. Not saying that you won't be afraid, but you'll always have that courage to know that God was with you before, and you can proceed to know that God will be with you again, wherever you will go. So I think that's how we're going to end our topic for today, because we've come to the part where we can now find out who our top 3 clusters are from our last week's broadcast. So continue to always put in your hashtag of the locale or cluster that you're from, and we will now find out who are the top 3 clusters from last week's broadcast.
Third place, Bonn and Luxembourg cluster. Second place, Heidelberg cluster. First place, Berlin Cluster.
Congratulations to all of our top three. And I like that our third place is always changing every week. So we know that the brethren who are in the Bonn and Luxembourg cluster were very active in our last week. We hope to have all of our different clusters continue to participate. So if you are here tonight and you notice some of your brethren who are not here, invite them so that we will be many more to participate in our chat to answer some of our questions so that we can read some of your answers and we get to know each other even better. And sometimes, to be honest, it does take some courage to share some of this things about yourself in chat. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get to share who you are with INC Radio Central Europe. And we love reading your comments. We love getting to know you more. And so now, Ali, what do we have coming up next for us as we are coming to a close?
Looking at the time, I think it's shout out time. So, Chanel, who do you want to shout out tonight?
I do want to shout out to my Korea family and all the friends and family I've made there. Ate Tin, Ella, Jenny, and Lauren. Ate Lauren, they took care of me so well. And also big shout out to my husband, Mark Ray Manalili, for having the courage to even post that story on INC Radio. Wow. And shout out to our amazing hosts, Henry and Ali. You guys are always so fun to be around. I'm happy to have joined the show with you guys.
And so let's see. I will always, like normal, shout out to my wife who is just right outside this wall, always supporting me in this broadcast. Shout out to my mom. She's here visiting and she'll be going to the Philippines back Thursday. So thank you to my mom for cooking for the past 3 weeks. We did not have to eat fast food for a while. So we've had a lot of great meals lately. And shout out to everyone who participated in tonight's broadcast. Always thank you. Ali, would you like to shout out anyone?
I, of course, want to shout out you, Henry and Chanel, of course, for joining us tonight. And of course, we want to shout out our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for the many comments tonight. And keep your comments going so that you can still have the chance to win this week's Cluster Challenge. And we also want to thank our District CFO Advisor, Brother Scott Agustin. And thank you to our Assistant District Minister, Brother Jake Edick. And thank you to our District Minister, Brother Joe Bicatalan. Henry?
Thank you to our INC Media Productions Chief, Brother Montreval Boy. Thank you to our INC Radio Station Manager, Brother Wally Taray. Thank you to our CFO Coordinator, Brother Ralph Francis Esquera. Thank you to our Deputy Executive Minister, Brother Angelo Irania Manalo. And most importantly, thank you to the Church Administration, our most beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you all for joining us in our INC Radio Central Europe broadcast this evening. We hope to see you next week and have a lovely evening.